Don't mind me. I'm, me.
And the home of the brave.
Game on!
Welcome to episode 16 of the Hit the Deck podcast, where we talk deck hockey, street hockey, ball hockey. It's hockey in sneakers. It is Memorial Day weekend, and I am sitting here talking to my good buddy James. So happy to be here talking to you. How you doing, James?
I'm doing pretty well, and the feeling is mutual, Mr. Rhino Max, sir.
I hope you're happy to be listening to us talk.
I am. Maybe somebody else is, I hope.
Well, you have no choice. They have a choice.
Good point.
So,
well, I mean, we do have choices. You don't have to do this.
No, I guess, but we're kind of committed at this point. Or we should be. Ha ha!
Fair enough.
Anyway. Ba-dum-bum. What's there we go.
Nice.
My version of the rim shot.
Love it.
All right. How are you, James?
I'm okay, thank you.
Good.
How's it going?
Okay. It's hot. It got suddenly very, very hot in our part of the world.
Yes, it's like we didn't really have a spring, and then summer just decided to show up, and we do have a deck hockey game planned for this weekend.
Yes, we do.
So in future Hit the Deck, we will talk about, since we already talked about our cold weather gear, we will talk about our warm weather gear. So that's something to look forward to. And we're going to test it out this weekend already. So,
assuming we have not succumbed to heat stroke in the interim.
Yeah, we haven't yet, so we'll
Right.
see.
Oh, goodness. We should probably mention who it is that's rambling way to you. So for tonight's starting lineup, in goal, I am, number 35, the American Rhino, Gary McComiskey, and my illustrious co-host.
On defense, number 4, I'm James Sajazi.
Yes, sir. Okay, so James, since we're sitting here talking, shooting the breeze, as it were, would you mind terribly if I were to impose upon you and ask you what's on deck for this evening?
You were so extremely polite. How could anybody turn that down? It will be my pleasure.
Thank you.
Memorial Day weekend. At the recording of this podcast, Memorial Day is this coming Monday. God bless all of our brave, courageous, selfless American heroes who have and continue to keep us safe. From Hit the Deck and, dare we say, all of the U.S., thank you and your families for your countless sacrifices. Fictional hockey heroes. From the true heroes of the U.S. military to make-believe heroes with a great fondness for hockey. Lean on me. Gary and I will delve into the importance of a player's deck hockey stick and on whose authority? On the American Rhino's authority. Sports Authority is unfortunately going out of business, but at least you can try to pick up some deals on hockey gear. And that's what's on deck.
Thank you, James.
You're very welcome, sir.
All right, cool. So, as we said, as you said, as I said, it's Memorial Day weekend. And, of course, again, I'd like to echo the sentiment of James. On behalf of him and I and Hit the Deck and everyone, we would just like to wish a sincere thanks to those who serve to protect this country and make it as great as it is, and especially those who have sacrificed to make this country great and to keep us safe and able to live the lives and do this nonsense. If it weren't for them, we wouldn't be here. So on behalf of all of us, it's not nearly enough, but thank you.
I mean, tremendous amen to that. Just well said, well put, and 100% agree. So thank you. But with that, countless sacrifices made by our military personnel, and Memorial Day is supposed to be designed to remember those who gave up the ultimate sacrifice, their lives, for serving and keeping us safe throughout the history of this country. And like Gary said, we could say thank you, we could mean it from the bottom of our hearts, but it's just not enough. And it's just such a blessing not to know what it's like to live in a country where we aren't free or safe or whatever. And that's all thanks to our great military. And there's really, I haven't met anybody who's more patriotic than the American Rhino. So it's a pleasure to have your back and be your partner in that. And again, just endless thank you to those wonderful heroes.
Yeah, I gotta say, it's unfortunate that it's only holidays like this where most of us really stop and take a step back and appreciate what we've been given, what we've been blessed to have others do on our behalf. But for a hockey fan especially, I mean, you watch hockey and say somebody slides out and lays out and puts their body in front of a slap shot, and you hear the announcer, "Oh, he really sacrificed his body on that shot." No, he didn't. He stopped somebody from shooting a puck in a game that's ultimately completely meaningless. Somebody who's really sacrificing their body is somebody who's going over in another country and doesn't know if they're going to see their family ever again, and giving up everything on behalf of people they don't know just because of an ideal that they believe in. That's real sacrifice, and that's the kind of thing that we're trying to remember and should remember every day, but especially this weekend.
Yeah, 100% amen to that. And not only the great soldiers, men and women who have sacrificed their lives, but those that have lost limbs or even psychologically are not the same when they come back, and just trying to get back into society where, like World War II veterans and Vietnam veterans, which makes you sick to your stomach. I mean, these men and women that literally gave up everything come back and they can't even find a job or whatever the case is, or if they don't have an arm, it's endless. And we really don't. Well, we try not to take that lightly, and we try to appreciate that, and we're grateful for days like Memorial Day. So it's just our little way of reminding people that absolutely during the weekend, play deck hockey, catch a ball game, enjoy a barbecue, but please, at the very least, say a prayer of thanks for our military that have sacrificed life, limb, and mental health for us. And the great actor Gary Sinise with his co-host Joe Mantegna, they host the National Memorial Day Concert Sunday night on PBS at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. So I definitely highly recommend that you catch that, and that'll really put it in perspective. They do a wonderful job at that every year, and they have veterans there and military personnel who if you watch it and your eyes don't tear or if you don't get choked up, check your pulse. So it's definitely something to put on your list to do over the weekend.
Thanks, James.
Sure. And with that, like great stars, superstars such as Bob Hope, the one and only Bob Hope. The man was blessed enough to live to 100 years old. And in terms of entertainment, the guy literally did it all, from vaudeville to radio to movies to TV. He conquered it all. And probably the greatest thing that he did in his life was at least he had 57 tours, I believe, from 1941 through 1991, where he literally put himself in harm's way, went to entertain the troops, and all that he did for the American military so selflessly. He was actually awarded the title of honorary veteran in 1997. So that's how great Bob Hope was.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, so that's the positive side of Bob Hope, Gary Sinise, Joe Mantegna. It's nice to see Hollywood tip their caps and let everybody in the country know that, like Gary said before, that we wouldn't have any of this if it's not for our military, past, present, and future. Other things you'd like to do, and we're not preaching here, and we will get into the deck hockey part of the show, but we would be remiss not to acknowledge Memorial Day. But places like the USO, Wounded Warrior Project, Help Hospitalized Veterans are places where, and Bob Hope worked for the USO, by the way, are charity organizations that you can donate to that take care of our military and especially the veterans coming back and trying to get their lives back in order and learning to live with prosthetics or whatever the case is, and even mental health. One of the greatest heroes that we know about, and I'm glad with the book and the movie that came out, Chris Kyle, he was a great example of that. And unfortunately, all that he did, he came back only to lose his life stateside. But, I mean, like Gary said, the true heroes of the world, as far as I'm concerned, and maybe Gary as well, are the military and those like them. Police officers, firefighters, and anybody that puts his life on the line to sacrifice and benefit somebody else. Just God bless you all and thank you.
I agree 110%, James.
So, and then just another tip of the cap too. Audie Murphy, not Eddie Murphy, but Audie Murphy. If you haven't heard who he is, please Google him. I believe you spell his name Audie. Not sure if it's EY or just Y, but that's a good thing about Google is if you spell something in the ballpark, it'll correct you. I should learn how to spell the hero's name properly, but one of the most decorated, if not the most decorated American vets in World War II history, and just a hero in every sense of the word. And then even baseball players such as Gil Hodges was a Marine and did so much to help his country. And probably, speaking of great actors, Jimmy Stewart, he had to gain weight in order to join the Air Force. And he was such a tremendous hero and an ace too, by the way, in his illustrious career as a World War II fighter pilot, that he never spoke about it. He was so humble that he never spoke about his great service. The same thing with Audie Murphy. He had to lie about his age, and he was turned down by the Marines and the Navy. So he joined the Army because he was on the short side, and I think he was like 17 years old or something, and he lied about his age. I mean, that's how determined and just selfless the man was. A real life Captain America. Audie Murphy and James Stewart and guys like those, Gil Hodges. So, God bless them. And, what can you say? Tying in with the hockey part, there's a website known as the Society for International Hockey Research. SHR, I believe, is, SIHR is the short form of it. And if you go there, you can see a list of all of the great heroes who both played in the NHL or played professional hockey and served their countries, and that's America and Canada included. And it's an amazing list. It's such a long list, and majority of the men there were World War II, World War I. But just for an athlete or an actress to give up everything, I mean that's unheard of nowadays. So it really puts it in perspective what true heroes they are and were. And on our point of view, and God bless him, he's still alive and kicking and doing well, and I hope he has a nice long life, is the LIQ's own Chris Achipari, a friend of mine I went to high school with, a really close friend of Patrick's, people that play in the LIQ. Mm-hmm. He served well. I believe he was in the Army and was a paratrooper, and so just a real humble guy too. He won't talk about it, and he doesn't consider himself a hero. So what they all have in common, all the great men and women that came back, you hear it time and time again, is they always feel that the real heroes never came back. Yeah. And that's how selfless they are, and true, heroic, wonderful, great people that you want to know and have in your lives, and you will benefit from it. So again, thank you.
Yes, thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
So just to lighten things up a little bit, Gary came up with a great idea where the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie is coming out in a month or two, correct?
Yeah, I think it might. It might even already be out. I'm not sure.
Yeah, forgive me. I live under a rock at times, but
I didn't see the first one, so I wasn't going to go out of my way to see the second one. So I don't really know. We should fact check these things, but I
that That would be helpful. But the benefit of a podcast, I mean, when we record this, maybe it will be released or maybe it hasn't been released. Who knows?
Yeah.
But you looking it up?
I am looking it up, yes. But please, keep talking.
No, that's fine. I was just going to try and stall, but I'm not going to bother.
June 3rd.
Okay.
It comes out June 3rd. So,
yes.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Google. So, and again, Gary had a great idea. You don't have to, like, whatever.
I'm sorry.
Just...
You're too humble.
You want me to stop every segment and say, oh, James had a great idea, and James had another great idea for a segment.
No, but that should be my job.
But that's how it sounds.
Everything else.
Don't.
So that's just my job. Let me perform a function in this website, in this podcast, a little thing, please.
Yeah, right.
So, but continue. I'm sorry.
So in this second Turtles movie is, I don't know, for those of our fans who may be more familiar with or less familiar with the Turtles mythology, I guess. James and I grew up on the Turtles cartoon, and of course there was the movies that came out, the live-action Turtles movies. The first one was phenomenal. Well, not phenomenal, but it was a very good movie. The second one was also a movie. And the third one played in theaters for some reason. So, one of the really cool characters in the Turtles pantheon, an ally of theirs, and somebody who's going to be featured in this movie, played by Stephen Amell, TV's Arrow, is Casey Jones, who is a vigilante, a human being, vigilante, who dresses up in an old-style hockey mask, like an old-school kind of, not quite a Jason mask, but very similar, and carries a hockey stick and beats up bad guys with a hockey stick. So, he's a cool character. He is a hero, and obviously he has an affinity for hockey. So that's the kind of thing we're talking about with this. There's another character who, and this is a little bit of a stretch, but bear with me. There aren't a huge number of hockey-themed heroes out there for some reason. But so there's a book series that I really enjoy. It's called The Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. And it's something that I grudgingly credit my mother and sister for, because they tried for years to get me to start reading this, and I just resisted, but it's wonderful. But anyway, so the premise of the series is, this is going to sound silly, but I promise it's actually really cool. A wizard who lives in Chicago and acts as basically a private eye with magic. And like I said, that sounds kind of silly, but the books are actually really cool. He's got great banter. He's basically like the wizard version of Spider-Man. He quips and has witty banter, not banter so much as he just makes fun of people constantly while he's fighting them, and he gets beaten up more than he wins.
Oh, no.
But he generally wins the day in the end, and the books just keep getting better and better. He's a combination of your old noir style gumshoe private eye, but he also just happens to be a wizard who can do magic. And again, it's a lot cooler than it sounds. Jim Butcher, The Dresden Files. The reason I bring it up is because the series, which, again, the book series is very good, was some years ago adapted into a television series that was on the Sci-Fi Channel, which was also called The Dresden Files. That was not so good, not nearly as good as the books, but the one thing they changed for the television series, and that's why it's in this segment, is his wizard staff in the show was a hockey stick. So we've seen hockey players who can seemingly do magic with their hockey sticks. In fact, we play with a couple, but in this show, there was a guy who actually did magic with hockey sticks. So Harry Dresden is my pick for a hockey hero, even though it's a stretch.
As Mr. Spock would say, it was flawlessly logical.
Yeah, I don't know
think
about
that's
that.
a stretch at all. That was great. I'll definitely check that out. Sounds like fun. And
Yeah,
for me, yeah.
Sorry, no, just if you are planning on checking out the books, again, I highly recommend it. But there's a caveat. The first 2 or 3 books are a little, they're a little tough. He was very, very young. Like, this was basically his first big book, his first real books that he wrote. So, the series takes a few books to really kick into gear, but once it does, it does in a big way. So if you do want to give it a chance, my recommendation is to, stay with it. Or if you don't feel like you have the capacity to read some not terrible, but, not spectacular books, before you get to the good stuff, then start with, book 3 or 4. That's all.
All right. Sounds good. Summer's coming up, so there's your summer reading for you.
Yeah.
For my 2 cents for this topic is a character named Sergeant Mace.
I like it already.
Yeah, now if you thought you had a stretch on this, try and follow this one.
All right.
Now, Sergeant Mace is a character from a toy series known as Cops that was about late 80s, early 90s. And COPS stood for Central Organization of Police Specialists, and it takes place in the future. Now, Sergeant Mace, he's a man. He's not a cyborg or superhero or anything like that. But the great thing about him and why he was one of my favorite toys of all time was his colors were orange and blue. His badge number was 4. Badge number 4.
That must have been a very small force.
Well, yeah, there was, yeah, and he was the SWAT team leader, which eventually they made a couple of other SWAT team members. But they were just the elite; they were the best of the best. So
I see.
Right, and whatnot. But so yeah, badge number 4, and he shot a bazooka, which is one of my all-time favorite weapons.
Sure.
His name Mace is another one of my all-time favorite weapons too in medieval. I mean, a spiked ball on the end of a stick is just brilliant to me. I mean, the amount of damage you can do with that. And
now, actually, James,
yes?
this is I'm going to derail the conversation for just a minute or two.
Okay.
This I don't know if that's strictly speaking accurate. I realize that in our contemporary culture, we kind of think of that spiked ball on the chain as a mace. But yes. I think if we're being perfectly accurate, the mace was a spiked ball on the end of a stationary stick. Yes. It's basically a club at the end of a stick. Yes. The spiked ball attached to a chain is a flail, I believe.
Ah, okay. My apologies.
No, I have the same image. When you say mace, in my head, I bring up the same image as you just described. But okay. I think we're wrong. That's all I'm saying. I think we as a society have kind of a misconception about that. And I'm not sure where that came from. But, hey, listeners, if you know for sure, please feel free to correct us or confirm what we're saying at hitthedeck@gmail.com or drop us a line on Twitter at hitthedeckpod.
Yeah, come on. There's got to be some medieval knight people out there, right? And don't they do things upstate where they do medieval?
Oh, sure. Renaissance fairs and reenactments and
right. Just
LARPing.
Don't hit us with them. Yes.
Do you know what LARPing is, James?
I do not.
LARP stands for live action role play. So, it's a thing where people dress up in costume as either they're all wizards or they're all, medieval warriors or whatever. And it's kind of like reenactment, but I think it's less historically accurate and more fun.
Okay. So yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to apologize for derailing the conversation.
No, not at all. I appreciate you correcting me, and I apologize for being in the wrong. And
assuming you are wrong, you may not be.
Okay. Well, in all honesty, I was trying to describe a mace, and I didn't do a good job because I didn't properly describe it. So either way, I deserve the penalty on that. So 2 minutes will be served, and thank you for that. And also for the people that do know, that do know what we're talking about, don't use them as examples on our heads or anything like that. Just tell us what they are or send us pictures, and we're cool. But getting back to Sergeant Mace, and I'm glad you didn't bring up the spray, the mace spray, because that's not cool. That's not bad. Well, I was going to say a bad word, but anyway.
I think that would be Sergeant Pepper, and that's a completely different guy.
Well done. So, getting back to Sergeant Mace from the toy line Cops, there was a cartoon also that came out, which was really campy and silly. The comic book series was cool. That was nice. But anyway, yeah, so
the
he's
80s.
based in Philadelphia. Oh, go ahead.
No, the 80s, where every entertainment property had toys and cartoons and comic books and just wanted to sell you on everything.
Well, I believe it was Hasbro, so they already had that pattern down with G.I. Joe. So they knew what they were doing at that point. So, yeah, he's orange and blue, his uniform, badge number 4. He was based in Philadelphia. At the time, growing up, my favorite player, Lenny Dykstra, was traded from the Mets to Philadelphia, which was one of the most traumatizing parts of my whole life. So thank God that my life hasn't been worse. Anyhow, and he shot a bazooka, but the coolest thing about him was the glove that he used in order to shoot the futuristic bazooka was very reminiscent and based on a goalie catcher's glove. And it was really cool looking. It was awesome. It looked like it was the old-fashioned leather glove that they used way back when, and definitely your style. And nice. I just appreciated that, and really cool. So, right. Yeah, that was Sergeant Mace. Another great fictional hockey hero.
Yeah.
And a man that you definitely have a lot in common with is MacGyver. Now...
Go ahead, justify this one.
Okay. Richard Dean Anderson, the actor who portrayed MacGyver, was and is a huge hockey fan. As a matter of fact, he grew up in Minnesota, which is, in this country, the capital of hockey, and people from Boston and Detroit are probably going to come after me with that. But Minnesota is at least it's a hotbed for hockey in this country, as close as you're going to get. That's not Canada.
Right.
So Richard Dean Anderson was such a hockey fanatic that he played and probably would have progressed to get to the NHL, but he broke both of his arms on separate occasions, and that's what it took to get him out of the lineup. And just to give you an idea of how tough hockey players are. So I think with mending both of the arms, I guess he had to do something else, and maybe that's how he became an actor or looked into acting school and things like that. But the cool thing about the man himself is any character that he plays, MacGyver probably his most popular one, and he was in a sci-fi series too.
Stargate, right?
Stargate, thank you. And in both instances, he incorporated his character to be a tremendous hockey fan for that, and that's his devotion and love of the great sport of hockey. So definitely we tip our helmets to and tap our sticks to MacGyver and Richard Dean Anderson.
It's unfortunate that his injuries robbed him of his hockey career, because I think if there's anybody who could create a scoring play out of nothing, it's MacGyver.
Oh, beautiful. So those are the good hockey fictional characters that Gary and I came up with. And now for the not so good. Gary, if you wouldn't mind just taking us through how you came up with this idea and what sparked the topic?
I don't remember.
The NHL Guardians?
No, I mean,
I think the NHL and Stan Lee would like to forget too. So
that wasn't what sparked the idea. That was just something I came up with when I was thinking about it. Yeah, I don't remember what I don't remember what sparked this idea. But one of the things that I came up with when I was racking my brain to think of what hockey related figures there were in, like not superheroes necessarily, but hockey kind of pop culture hockey figures. And I came up with the ill-fated NHL Guardians, which was the NHL in, I think, 2011. The NHL approached Stan Lee, basically the father of every beloved Marvel character out there, Excelsior. They approached him about marketing the NHL as superheroes. So he created a superhero that embodied, in theory, every NHL team. And they wanted, this was supposed to be a big thing with comic books and I think they kicked it off with a 20-minute cartoon or something, or basically a mini movie about how the Guardians were defending. I didn't actually watch it. I don't know what they were defending against or who they were defending. James, can you remember any of that?
Yeah, again, this is something that they kind of tried to sweep under the carpet, but my vague recollection of it was they debuted them at least, or they teased them and then officially debuted them at the All-Star game that year, the 2011 All-Star game.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, exactly. They were 30 NHL teams, I believe. I get confused nowadays.
I believe so.
With all the different franchises and different leagues and such. But, right, there was a hero based on each team and the city that they played in. So, for example, the Ranger superhero was a super cop.
Yes.
And he was kind of like who was the Flaming Skull guy in
Ghost Rider?
Ghost Rider, thank you.
Mm.
And he was on a flying motorcycle, and it was kind of cool and everything. So
that's right. It was like a hover bike or something.
Right.
But the one thing I did think was cool, since he was the avatar for the Rangers, is that he had a shield.
Oh, yes.
Which, the Rangers logo is basically a shield. So I thought that was appropriate. And as dumb as the whole concept was, and it was dumb, it never went anywhere. They almost immediately abandoned it. But I thought that was a cool little nod to the franchise.
Exactly. They did. Yes, they did try, and they put their hearts and souls into it. It wasn't just some afterthought, and they just threw up whatever they did. But, like the Minnesota Wild was like this big wolf guy, and the Coyotes had a coyote, and the Islanders had they incorporated I think he had like a
magic fisherman's net.
No, he was much cooler than that.
Oh, okay.
He did embody the island and water and things. The Devils had this scary super devil guy that looked like the one from the Blair Witch Project, I guess, and so on and so forth. But right, as quickly as it came, it went away.
Mm-hmm.
So, if we were to put our super group of fictional hockey heroes versus the NHL Guardians, I think we'd come out on top.
We at least would have more staying power.
Absolutely. And speaking of which, the actual what sparked this idea was Casey Jones himself. So I apologize for interfering with your train of thought before, Gary. But we would love to see a game with Casey Jones in one goal and Jason Voorhees in the other.
Right? Yes.
Now, just to fill the rest of the rosters is a whole other issue. So maybe if you out there would like to chime in and let us know who your favorite fictional characters are, favorite fictional hockey-related characters are. And you can include, if you'd like, the Hanson brothers and people from Slapshot and and the movies that we discussed in the past, even if you want Bombay to be the coach from the Mighty Ducks, by all means. So just have at it. Have some fun with this, and give us a shout out if you want through Twitter or our Gmail account, as Gary always very patiently lets you know how to contact us with. So we would like to hear that.
You know, James, there was a Mighty Ducks cartoon, and in the cartoon, I believe the ducks were alien ducks from a planet that played hockey, from a hockey-playing planet of animals, I guess, and they came to Earth to defend and play hockey against... I didn't watch it. I don't know. It was the 90s, man. It was weird.
Yeah. Apologies to Canada. I mean, wow. Are they still our allies? I mean, that would kind of... I'm sorry.
I don't know.
Okay. I think that was even less well thought out than the NHL Guardians, but let's move on. So yeah, Lean on Me is another topic about the importance of a deck hockey stick. And Gary and I have emphasized that deck hockey is based on, or has its roots in roller hockey and ice hockey.
Sure.
And a lot of times you can use the same gear designed for roller hockey for deck hockey.
Of course.
It depends on the ice hockey stuff, because that is designed to be played on a smooth surface such as ice, but it's not as durable. Like if you were to wear a visor as opposed to the cage, or if you were to use a stick and not tape it up properly, the blade would wear out much quicker on concrete than it would on ice. So just keep that in mind. Just want to get that out there. But this is kind of a follow-up from last edition's Hit the Decks topic of player development. And the intricacies of balance, weight, and flex of sticks is very, very important. Now, if you were to play ice hockey, that is one of the first things that they teach you, is to fit you with your stick. It depends on your height, especially when you're wearing skates. And what position you're playing, if you're a forward, even if you're a center or a sniper, or if you're a defenseman. You have a plethora of options to choose from the stiffness of the sticks. The rule of thumb is you'd want a stiffer flex, which is harder to bend if you're a defenseman.
Okay.
Because defensemen usually preliminary or primarily slap shot takers, because they play back and play the point and such. And if you're a forward or a center, you would want one with much more flexibility, so you could snap the puck better and get a lot more oomph on your shot.
So not being a shooter, I don't really I guess I don't pay a lot of attention to the mechanics of the stick. I guess the a stick with more flex allows you to snap off a wrist shot better. That's what you're telling me.
Yes.
But I would think that on a slap shot, a stick with a lot of flex would be helpful as well, because isn't the whole point of a slap shot that you kind of momentarily flex the stick back when it hits the ice or the ground, and then it releases with all that power and shoots the puck towards the net? Well, ideally, if you have a decent aim, anyway. So,
absolutely.
Why is the stiffer stick better for that kind of thing?
You're absolutely right, and this is the physics part of hockey, and specifically for ice hockey. So, especially if you're watching, speaking of the All-Star game, if you watch the skills competition, the reason being that those sticks are stiffer is that exactly it takes a lot more force to get it to bend, and you're hitting behind the puck. You're actually hitting the ice first when you're taking a proper slap shot. To do exactly what Gary just described, is you're bending the stick so that your hands are in front of the puck, and you're coiling all of that energy into the blade being flexed through the body of the stick, which will, as you're following through, will then release on the puck itself as you're hitting it. And that's how you get guys like Zdeno Chara, who have and Shea Weber, who have hit the puck over 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So the reason why it works better for a stiffer flex is so that you can generate, and that's the weird physics about it, is that you generate more power that way, as opposed to if there's more flex to it, that the stick is going to give a lot more, and it would have a tendency to break easier.
Yeah, okay, I can see that.
Because it absorbs your force
right.
more, because it's a weaker flex, for lack of a better term.
Sure.
You get less of the snap power out of it. So that's why a stiffer stick is ideal for slap shots. And
it almost functions as a shock absorber. I guess
right.
A stick with more flex. I get it.
Yeah, right. Like a slingshot effect in a way too. And the same thing is for deck hockey, even though you're using a ball, and a lot of leagues don't allow for slap shots. But if you are playing, speaking from experience, defense, at the minimum, if you're playing back, following up your forwards and staying on the blue line, you're going to have to shoot from a farther distance anyway. So maybe you're not really getting the slap shot off, but you are taking a hard wrist shot from where you are, and it also helps to pass the puck better and get a stiffer, more true pass to get the guys who are the scorers the puck quickly and accurately.
Sure.
And yeah, that's the same thing for deck hockey as it is for ice or roller hockey. And other things are the curves of blades as well. The bigger the curve, the more you'll lift the puck or ball. And that's something I'm still experimenting with myself, as we delved into a few podcasts ago when we were talking about the different sticks that I personally use, the Titan sticks, is that, like we also said, I learned to play roller hockey, and we use the puck.
Mm-hmm.
So then going to deck hockey, where you use a ball, the blades I was using had a little bit too much curve to them, so my shot was completely inaccurate, and that's more because of improper, and lack of talent, improper form, but also I'm not giving myself a good enough chance because the blade has a bigger curve and an open face, so that is designed to really whip the puck and get more height.
Okay.
So I've tried to experiment with a closed blade, and with not that big a drastic curve to it. Plus, the less curve, the better it is to pass to the other guys out there.
Okay. So what you settled on, is that your Riker or your Spock?
Yes, exactly right. The Riker is the shaft, and I used to use a Gretzky blade, which worked well because at the time it was designed for like an all-around great stick, because if you're a center, that's the ideal thing, because you don't want too big you want to have the versatility to be able to pass well and shoot the puck still, and even have a backhand as well. So like the Gretzky blade had all of that. Sure. So from there, I tried to focus on blades like Zetterberg and defenseman style blades like Chara as well. And also another difference with a defenseman blade is that there's a square toe to it as opposed to the traditional curved toe.
Okay.
Which helps you. It's really slight, but that just helps you block the puck or the ball a little bit better, just because there's a little bit more surface to the blade. So that kind of helps you deflect the puck or maybe even steal and things like that. So that's something else to consider for the deck hockey players out there.
Thank you.
Sure. Another thing, getting back to if you are an ice hockey player or a roller hockey player, is that when Gary and I were saying one of the benefits of deck hockey is that you can develop good skills and graduate from there, so you have a good foundation. So once you learn how the proper way to stick handle and shoot and balance and do all of those things, then you can go and skate. So you should learn to skate without a stick first, because, and I've seen this happen, and I was probably guilty of it as well, is you tend to use the stick like a cane to help balance yourself a little bit too much. So if you learn how to skate first, like Gary can ice skate tremendously.
You keep selling my skating ability. You're really overselling it.
No, it's impressive because the first time I was on ice, and I'm sure a lot of other people were on ice, it was the most helpless feeling in the world, and you're just waiting to fall down at any given time, and you were like, hey, this is easy, on different skates too, on both goalie and forward defenseman skates. So you didn't care; the blades didn't matter. You were just the way you went. So
I still fall down occasionally.
well, that NHLers fall down. It's ice, it's slick, and you're on. I mean. I don't even know what the centimeter is of properly sharpened skate. So it's really, man wasn't designed to skate, I don't think. So,
and yet he seems to have perfected it pretty well.
Go figure, man. Go figure. So I would recommend that if you do play roller hockey and ice hockey, to learn how to skate first without your stick, and then you can marry the two together, and away you go, and hopefully go on to have a good high school, college, and maybe even professional career.
I now pronounce you man and stick.
But for a goalie's point of view, and there are strict rules in NHL and DEK hockey as well, where you're not allowed to play the puck with your glove or pass,
right?
Hand pass.
Sure.
For a goalie, the few times when you lose your stick, do you really feel helpless?
Oh, you kidding? Well, you watch an NHL game, or, well, probably most games, but I mainly just watch NHL games. You see the goalie lose their stick, and immediately a player, a teammate, gives them their stick, because having a forward stick or a defenseman stick is better than having nothing. I mean, the amount that it affects you as a goalie, I guess, is going to depend largely on your style. For me, I rely very heavily on the poke check. That's a huge tool in my arsenal. So when I lose my stick, I really feel very vulnerable in goal, and I can't wait to get it back. So, yes, absolutely. Another goalie may say, "Yeah, it's not. It makes me less effective, but it's not a huge deal." That's not me. Yeah, I mean, how does it feel when you as a defenseman lose your stick?
So, yeah, I agree 100%, especially for a defenseman. You're really use your stick a lot to help stop passes or plug up passing lanes and contain the offense as much as you can.
And as a goalie, I appreciate that.
Of course. So the times if I've broken a stick or have lost it, you try and do what you can, where you're like, boogie, boogie. Or, hey, look at that.
Your inner A-Rod comes out.
Right. Yeah, just try and slap his stick out of his hand.
Yeah, I think that's a penalty.
I think it is too. So right, it's really horrible and tough. It's much worse on skates without a stick.
Boogie.
But right, you want to get that thing back as fast as you can, and or at least rely on your teammate to bail you out while you have time to pick it up. So you can only block so much with your body.
All right, well, fair enough. So
yeah, man.
Yeah. The good thing is, if you do need a new stick, you may be in luck, because we just found out Sports Authority, the sporting goods chain, is closing its doors. All of its stores are going to be closed by August, or at least by the end of August. I don't remember exactly. But so there are going to be huge going out of business sales across the entire chain. So I don't know how good Sports Authority's hockey selection is. I know online it's not great. In store, maybe a little better. But it's certainly, even if you don't need hockey equipment, even if you just need, say, sporting clothes or something that you can wear while you play hockey, or, something not hockey related. I don't know why you would want to do something not hockey related. What's wrong with you? Just having outside interests. Come on.
Crazy.
But, so that's your tip. In the next few months, you can probably save a lot of money at Sports Authority, but, get while the getting's good, because I'm sure they're not going to be restocking very much either. So get on that.
Last minute remaining in the podcast.
All right, so to wrap up, I once again would like to thank you, the listener, for sticking with us and sticking out another podcast. Again, just to echo the sentiment from the top of the show, on behalf of James and myself, thank you to anyone who has served. We appreciate it more than we could ever express, and we owe you a debt greater than we could ever repay. You should please feel free to contact us, any of you, not just the veterans. Please feel free to contact us at hitthedek@gmail.com, hitthedekpod at Twitter, on Facebook and Instagram. We are at hitthedek. Please subscribe to this very podcast on iTunes or any number of other podcasting outlets. Stitcher, we are available for download on Stitcher. They have their own app in the Apple Store and the Android Store, or Google Play Store, rather. They have their own player. They have lots of other great podcasts, not just us. Please check them out. I would like to thank Anthony Sajazi for music used in the podcast. I'd like to thank the LIQ for sound effects, and of course Pops for being the voice of the podcast. James, anything you'd like to contribute?
You said it all, my friend. Thank you.
No, thank you, sir. And thank you, listener. And please remember, on this Memorial Day weekend, when you're out there having fun, whatever you're doing, remember, it's deck hockey. Don't be that guy. Thanks, everybody. I'm content to let the mace just fly.